mid-market? How do you define that?
Well, there are a variety of definitions out there when it comes to mid-market, and if you were to
Everybody's got their own.
everybody's got their own pyramid, and if you were going to talk to 10 vendors, you'd get 10 different pyramids. So I won't try and call that out in terms of an employee count or a revenue count, but I'm certainly thinking beyond the Fortune 500 and the Fortune 1000. And there are a substantial number of companies that lie outside that space in North America that still spend a significant amount of money on IT and IT solutions and IT services. And we think we want to help our partners go mine those opportunities more acutely than they have in the past.
And being a Canadian boy, I can tell you, if Arrow only stuck to the same type of, just the same type of boundaries as what you do here or had traditionally done here, you wouldn't have an Arrow Canada, because what would they have, 3 customers?
That's a great observation.
And users?
Yeah.
So,
That's a great observation.
yeah, so I would just say it's a proven model already for you in Canada. You just have a much bigger audience to run it out.
I agree, and I think it has as much to do with where we focus our own efforts and investments as much as where our partners spend their time. And some partners are very good at finding net new footprints and net new end user logos. Others have fairly significant install bases, and they tend to do a lot of repeat business. And we want to help those partners that want to and are oriented as such to get beyond their install base to continue to grow their business.
Yeah, it seems that more and more the distributors who are doing well are the ones who are really partnering as opposed with their VARs, as opposed to, when I say partnering, like really being there and offering real true value to them, as opposed to those who are, helping them push product out the door.
I agree, and I think we've found in the last year or two, especially in a challenging economy, that relationships still matter. I think our partners recognize that we have to navigate changes on their behalf, and they're trying to navigate changes on their own. But clearly, the better we know their business and the spaces in which they play, the better we understand what they're trying to accomplish, the better we can serve them. And while we can't treat all partners uniquely, we certainly try to give each of them, their own relationship with Arrow in a way that benefits their growth objectives.
Are there going to be any real niche markets that you're going to be pushing? And it could be a big niche, a small niche, but specific target markets that you're looking at?
Well, we're going to continue to look at things that emanate from the convergence of the data center. And we think that there's a lot to be said about the convergence of server, storage, networking, and security, all underpinned by virtualization. But in addition to that, we are starting to selectively look at verticals where we think the growth opportunities are more significant. And I think in the future we'll be more pointed about those than we have been in the past.
And I assume that you'll build practices around it to help the VARs?
We will, and I think our practices will be solutions-based in nature. I think there's a lot to be said for an understanding of business processes and metrics and the messages that relate to a given industry. But I think more to the point, I think being able to provide a turnkey solution that those partners can in turn sell into those end user verticals is where the rubber's really going to meet the road.
Your sales model, you touched upon that when you spoke this morning. What do you plan on doing with that to retool it?
Well, we're in the midst of a couple of things, Robert. One is we recognize that a number of our partners do business with us on several fronts. They're not just an Oracle partner, or they're not just an EMC partner, or they're not just a VMware partner. And therefore, we want to give them that seamless experience and that consistent look and feel. But we also want to give them, I think, where it makes sense, a more consistent account coverage experience, so that instead of dealing with 6 or 7 entities, they're dealing with one. Yet at the same time, they still have access to the subject matter expertise on a solution or vendor basis that they come to enjoy. But by integrating that touch point at a more senior level, we think we're going to drive better traction with those larger and more diverse partners.
God, I remember about 10, 15, 20 years ago, probably all 3 of those, going into Arrow and them telling me, well, I would ask them, who's your major competitor? And they go, see the guy sitting next to me? He is. Because they would be selling, one brand and that whole branding.
Absolutely.
So what you're doing is you're integrating it so that a VAR can go out there and sell what he thinks is the best solution.
We're very interested in striking the right balance between strictly vendor alignment versus strictly an orientation to the reseller. We think there's a middle ground and a middle of the road there that, again, still allows us to offer specialization where it's appropriate and in a way that our suppliers appreciate, but at the same time, better support the ways in which our larger partners are going to market today.
So, last question. So I'll even let you think, take a minute and think of your thoughts on this.
Sure.
If you want to give advice to your average VAR, who you are a solution provider, like your average channel partner who's working with you, what one piece of advice would you want to give them?
Well, it's hard to give just one piece of advice in a situation
I
like
never
this.
said it was an
but-
easy question.
Well, you heard me talk about adaptability this morning, and that times are changing, and it seems like the rate of change is increasing exponentially. So I think successful partners have to be very aware of what's made them successful in the past. At the same time, like any business, they have to be very good at reevaluating what it's going to take for them to be successful in the future. So the general message would be to embrace change and to embrace new realities, and I think that plays out in the next few years by embracing services, by embracing software, and embracing the cloud in new and creative ways. And to the extent that partners do that, I think traditional partners that have done very well from a hardware perspective are going to continue to do well, though differently.
And is Arrow going to help your partners do that?
Absolutely. As we've talked about here for the last few minutes, our investments and our initiatives are very much pointed in that direction, Fusion Services being one of the key examples.
Yeah, if you want, I said it was the last one, but I'll lie. I wanted to ask you about Fusion Services, so what is that?
So Fusion Services is our investment in the services capability I described earlier, which is whether it's about consulting and implementation, post-sale support, or customer education. We have and are building a virtual bench of the right capacity and skills that smaller partners can leverage on their behalf. So a lot of our partners do services business today. We think that's an avenue for growth for them. So we have resources that we've invested in that will help them grow that services business even faster. So Fusion is the umbrella framework for all of our services investments, and our intention is to offer those services with and through our channel partners. We certainly aren't looking to compete with them.
Yeah, in my opinion, you get rid of distributors and you get rid of solution providers, like so many people talk about. The only thing that will really happen is that almost every vendor will go out of business because they won't be able to turn product around fast enough, and I just think the whole world will slow down. Now, maybe that's a good thing, but I don't think that's anything that the business world's going to allow.
Well, we would agree. So you and I are very aligned on that point, Robert.
Good. It's been a pleasure, Sean.
Likewise. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
And hopefully we'll reach you again for another On the Record.
I welcome it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.